Well, hello, hello, hello. We are live, and it has been a while since we've been live. But I wanted to come on because I've gotten some questions and some comments to some of my videos. And so, hey, I'm in quarantine mode just like you. So I figured I'd come on here and just give you what I got. Okay. So I've had a lot of back and forth with, let's see, who is this? Swole Muster is the username. Okay, about child support. So I want to make some clarifications so that everybody can understand how child support not only is calculated, but the difference between child support when you're filing with the court and the child support agency. And what people don't realize when they make these comments is that, this is in Georgia. I am an attorney in the state of Georgia, and each state has different laws. Let's be very clear on that. Each state has different laws. Okay. So when I talk about any kind of child support guidelines or any kind of modifications, we are specifically talking about in the state of Georgia, which is why at the beginning of the videos, I typically say in the state of Georgia. Okay. All right. So there's a big difference between what you're seeing with the child support agency, in which you guys sometimes refer to as child support services. And then also if you were to file with the court to obtain child support. So if it's the mom, and we're talking about let's say there was a child born out of wedlock, okay? So if it's the mom that's actually filing to get child support, then she would file a paternity. She would file a complaint to establish paternity, okay? So in filing that complaint to establish paternity, she's really asking for child support, okay? Now, I get that you guys are saying child support is not fair and all of this, but listen, someone has to take care of the child, okay? And then the same people, here's the thing. I do believe that both parents can take care of the child, all right, or the children. But here's the thing. The people that are saying both parents should be able to take care of the child, it's usually the one person that's not paying anything or contributing in any kind of way to the child financially that's usually saying that, okay? Which is why there has to be something in place, which is a child support order, in order for the mother, or I shouldn't even say mother, I should say actually the custodial parent to get child support, okay? All right, so when you guys are saying child support is not fair, I get that. There's a lot of things that's not fair, but listen, let me just tell you. I was at church one time, and there was a no smoking sign inside of the bathroom. And I actually said, why in the world would they have a no smoking sign inside of the bathroom? And the comment was, well, if there's one, obviously someone has tried it, okay? So obviously if there's some kind of rule, some kind of regulation in place, then I get that there are a lot of great people paying child support out there without any kind of order, but that ain't everybody. Let's be very clear, okay? So let me just go to some of these things. I think the gentleman actually said that there is no judge in a child support case. Let me be very clear. Even if your case is not with the court itself and the agency is coming after you, a judge still has to sign that order, okay? You cannot have an order without a judge's signature. Now, what some of you guys are doing is, and I don't recommend you doing this. I recommend you filing if you're in the state of Georgia. Again, this is the state of Georgia. You're actually filing to legitimate your child, okay? But what some of you guys are doing is you're going down and you're saying, I'm going to put myself on child support. Put myself on child support. Now, let me just tell you why that is not a good idea, okay? Number one, a lot of times I see people do that because they think Georgia is going to come after them for back child support. And let's be very clear, Georgia does not do back child support, okay? Georgia does not do back child support, but there is a difference between Georgia coming after you for maybe some medical bills or some necessities that the child has incurred before a child support order is in place. But when you go down to child support services and you say, I'm going to put myself on child support, then typically you're trying to get ahead of any kind of arrears being incurred. But no arrears can be incurred if you don't have a child support order in place, okay? All right. Now, the second thing is when you go to child support services and you put yourself on child support, as you guys call it, that's the only thing that's going to happen. Like, child support is going to be established, but you will not get any kind of parenting plan. You will not have any kind of establishment of your legal rights. You won't have any of that. There will be no legal rights established. And I get a lot of calls, and I get a lot of people that come in that actually say, well, listen, I'm on the birth certificate. Well, that's great, but that doesn't mean that your legal rights have been established, okay? And they say, well, the child has my last name. That's great. But again, that does not mean that your legal rights have been established. So again, in order for you to actually become the legal father, if you have a child that's born out of wedlock, you have to file for legitimation, okay? So when you say, let me go and put myself on child support, that doesn't help you. But hey, that doesn't stop you from going and just providing, if you're going to provide support, financial support to the mother, okay? You don't have to stop that. All right, so I'm just looking at some of this gentleman's comments. Let's see. Just to be clear, Swole Monster, attorneys don't collect on what child support services actually puts in place. I think you put in your comment that funny how you didn't speak about that 66 cents you people collect on every dollar. I have no idea what that means, okay? Because as an attorney, I don't collect anything on what is collected in child support, okay? We can't do that, okay? So let me be very clear. Child support is for the child, okay? Child support is for the child. And let me be very clear. Even if you thought that I was with the child support agency, even the attorneys with the child support agencies, they don't get money that they collect for a child. You know, this is a free service that they're doing. They're doing it because they don't want children getting money from the state otherwise. Okay, so that's a lot of times why they're doing this. Okay, that's why that's in place. Okay, all right. So they're not collecting money as the agency, except maybe there's some fees that they may collect in the process of actually if they're depositing money into the mom's account and things of that nature. But other than that, no, they're not getting paid money from what they collect in child support. Okay. All right. So let's be clear on that. Let's see. I'm just looking at some of these comments. Let's see. Remember, people demand proof of an injured party or proof of a breach contract you signed. I'm not sure where this guy is going with this. Let's see. There's another comment. What proof do you have that someone hasn't been taking care of the child? Okay. So here's the thing. You can be taking care of your child and still be placed on child support. And so I think that's a big misconception that even though you're taking care of your child, you can't be placed on child support. Yes, the mother can go and still place you on child support if you're taking care of your child. That's her right. And here's the thing. The father, if the father is the custodial parent, can do the same thing, okay? That can happen if the father is the custodial parent. I think even in this gentleman's comments, when he's getting caught up in the mother, it's not always the mother that's getting child support, because we've gotten custody for a lot of fathers. And when fathers, whoever has the child, whoever is the custodial parent, listen, they're the ones that is likely to receive child support. So let's be very clear on that. All right. So I wanted to open up everything to take your questions that you may have in regards to child support. I have questions. I'm going to keep looking at my phone because I have questions coming from two different areas. So if you have questions here on YouTube, let me know what your questions are. Just type them into the chat. And then I want to hear from you, and I want to know what your questions are, because that's the purpose of me being here right now, is to answer those questions in regards to child support. Now, if there are no questions in regards to child support, then I'm happy to answer questions that you have in regards to family law. Okay. All right. So let me just kind of sum up this question, because there was a video that I did and the person is wanting to know what documents do they need in order to prove their income. Okay. And so documents that you would need in proving your income. definitely your pay stubs if you have pay stubs. Okay. Now, I want to be clear, if you go to child support services, if that's where the mother has gone and that's where you've been summoned to go, then if you go to child support services, if you're W-2'd, then they have access to Department of Labor numbers. So when you guys go and try to lie about what you're making, if you're W-2'd, no need to lie about that because they can pull up Department of Labor numbers. Okay. So let's be clear on that. Now, your pay stubs, your W-2s will actually prove your income if you're in court. Pay stubs, W-2s, tax returns. And then I get a lot of questions as to what is considered child support. Is overtime considered child support? And yes, if overtime is consistently worked, then yeah, that is considered income. Income is the word that I meant to use. So yes, bonuses, that's considered income as well. So if you consistently get a bonus, that's considered income. I get a lot of people that get bonuses, that get commission, that get tips and things of that nature. And they want to know, well, how is that calculated? How is that possible to be calculated? Well, we do a year to date. So if I'm calculating your income because you have a variable income and your income is not the same every week, every 2 weeks, or every month, then what I'll do is I'll start from January up until the month that we're in, and I'll count the weeks, and I'll take that and I'll calculate your income based on that. So really it's an average of what you've received so far for that year. And that's how judges will typically calculate your income. Now, if you're straight hourly, then there's a way that we just calculate you based on hourly, based on the numbers that you actually, the number of hours that you actually work. Okay. All right. So getting back to some of the other things that we can look at as far as calculating income. Okay. All right. So let's say you're a business owner and you don't exactly have pay stubs. You're not W-2'd, you're getting paid under the table, whatever the case may be. You know, that's not always the case. But then I see a lot of people that are business owners that are not really taking care of their accounting. Okay. So if you're trying to prove that the business owner is making more than what they're saying, then typically what we do is we do ask for bank statements because we want to see what's going into the bank account. Okay. Even if you're W-2'd, we're going to ask for bank statements at my firm because we want to see if you have additional income going into the bank account. Okay. And so when we do that, we're looking for deposits. We're looking for expenditures, really. We're looking for, if you're telling me that you only make $5,000 a month, but then I'm seeing $10,000 consistently being deposited into your bank account, then yeah, that's going to be a red flag that you probably don't make just $5,000 a month. Or if for whatever reason you're spending like crazy and you're saying, well, no, this is my business account, but then we get your statements and let's say your business is, I don't know, a flower business, a local flower business, but yet we're seeing expenses in Miami, Aruba, Dubai. We're seeing, spending at the liquor store, at the mall. Well, here's the thing. Your income could end up being imputed because clearly these are things that are not consistent with owning a flower shop. Okay. And so that means that you're commingling your funds, your personal funds and your business funds. Okay. So I just want people to be clear on, what you typically think proves income is not what really proves income. There are a number of things. There are a number of circumstantial things that can actually prove income. Okay. All right. Let me just see if we have any other questions, because if there are no other questions, I'm going to wrap it up here. Let's see. Okay. Modifications. All right. So listen, if you are looking to modify your child support, if you're looking to modify your child support downward, which means you're the one that's paying child support, but you want to file to modify your child support, then yeah, you're going to have to come up with some proof of what your new income is. So if you're saying I lost my job, first of all, you need to truly have lost your job, because if you didn't lose your job and you voluntarily left the job, then your income can be imputed based on the job that you were at. So it's never a good look to just quit your job and think a judge is going to modify your child support. Okay. There are times where if you have a really, really, really good reason that a judge will modify the child support. But for the most part, we call that voluntary unemployment. Okay. All right. So typically the judges are looking for you to be involuntarily unemployed and not where you're trying not to get a job. Okay. So if you're modifying your child support, you need to be able to show that you make less, or maybe it's that the mom makes more, or maybe it's that within your child support worksheet before you were paying part of the daycare and now your child is 5 and going to school. And now, yeah, you need your child support modified because your child support worksheet actually included what mom was paying for daycare or the other person was paying for daycare. So you definitely want to go and modify. Now, I do have a caveat to that, because what happens is some of you go and you modify based on now the child is not in daycare, but then you don't take into account that now you're making a lot more than what you were making before. So your child support could end up being more or the same. All right. So, hey, Alias, thank you for the comment. Kimberly, let's see. I have no income. I'm a new mom and married now. How will my support go with my 3 other children? All right. So, Kimberly, I'm going to assume that you're paying child support. And so just put in the comments to correct any facts that I'm assuming, okay? Because I can only work with a facts and assumption at this point. All right. So, Kimberly, if you don't have any income, one of the things is the judge will look at why you don't have any income right now. All right. And so if the judge decides to impute income, and when we impute income, when the judge imputes income, that just simply means that the judge is going to say, listen, well, what's your educational background? What's your skill set? Oh, wait a minute. You have a master's degree, you have a master's degree and you can actually make $60,000 or $70,000, then the judge is not going to allow you to come into the courtroom and say there's no income, okay? Which I know a lot of people are normally concerned about in child support cases. You don't have to be concerned about that because the judge is going to say that that you should be making something. So Kimberly is clarifying that she's in school, okay? So that's going to be a little different, okay? So Kimberly, let's say you're in school. Let's say in the past few years you really hadn't worked. So what a judge would do is still impute income, but the judge can impute income based on minimum wage, okay? So which ends up for the state of Georgia being about $1261.50 a month. Okay, so when we put it in the child support worksheet, we're going to put your income as $1261.50, and we're going to put the other person's income as whatever their income is, and that's going to help us to calculate what the child support is. Okay, now let me be clear. There's some other things that we can put in the child support worksheet. So if you're paying for daycare, or the other person is paying for daycare, that can go into the child support worksheet and change the numbers as well, change what you actually pay in child support. If you are paying for medical insurance, that could end up going into the child support worksheet and you get a credit for that, okay? If you live out of state and you're having to fly into town to even visit with your child, then you could get a travel deviation, okay? The judge can give you a travel deviation for the expenses that you're having to pay to kind of go back and forth to see your child. There are a number of reasons that the judge can give you a deviation or an adjustment to the child support. I do have a video that's probably about 2 years old at this point, and it talks about how child support is calculated in Georgia. And the things in that video have not changed. They still stand true. So make sure you go and see that video to see how child support is calculated, okay? Kimberly, great question. You have any other question in regards to income or child support or any, again, you guys, if you have a general question, and as it relates to family law, period, just ask me now, okay? Great questions today. All right, let me see if I have anything else. Bear with me, I got locked out of my phone, so let's see. Okay. All right, I want to Let's see, Kimberly, hold on one moment. You do live out of state. Okay. And when you come in, you have to pay for an Airbnb, and it costs you $400 a week. Oh my God. Okay. So Kimberly, if you live out of state and your children live here and you're coming to visit the children, the judge can certainly give you a deviation, and we call it a travel deviation. But there is a caveat to that, okay? Because if you're the person that moved out of state and really is not for a job or not for anything that the judge is willing to consider, as far as like if you're moving out of state, if it's for a job, if it's for even school, whatever the case may be, the judge can give you a deviation. But I want to be clear, people, that it is discretionary. And I want to be clear that, Kimberly, like you're saying, you pay about $400 a week. I want to be clear that the judge is not going to give a full credit of $400 a week. So if your child support is $800 a month, the judge can actually give you a deviation of $50, $100. The judge can decide not to even give a deviation, okay? So let's just keep that in mind. So when we say it's discretionary, it really is discretionary, okay? There's certain arguments that we make so that we can get you a travel deviation, but it is still up to the judge if the judge wants to give you that. So if you're spending, let me just say, if you're spending about $3,000 a year, the judge is not likely to give you a deviation of $3,000 a year. And when we talk about deviation, this is coming off of your monthly child support amount. So if the judge decided to give, let's say, Kimberly, you were paying $800 in child support, and the judge decided to give you a $200 deviation, travel deviation, then your child support would be $600. Now, when I talk about earlier the documents that you would want to bring to court, you would want to bring in how much you've been paying to come and see your children here in Georgia, or how much you've been paying to go out of state to see your children, okay? You want to bring proof of that. Now, if you don't have proof of that, at least be able to show the judge, like go to Southwest, see how much an airline ticket would be, and calculate how much that would be. Now, we're talking about even like if you're coming in to town, that's one thing. But what about when you're having to pay for the children to fly back and forth to where you are? If you're in Texas and you're having to pay to have the children come to where you are, then yeah, the judge considers that as well. Okay, so that's very important. All right. Let's see. You're welcome, Kimberly. Let's see. I'm from California and I have a lot of questions. Please help me understand what's happening in my case. Anna, give me more. I need more information on this, okay? Give me some facts, Anna, so I can answer your question, okay? And keep in mind, guys, I'm a Georgia attorney, so this is in Georgia, okay? Let's see. Commissioner took my rights from my babies and gave the dad full physical and sole custody of my children. All right. I'm sorry to hear that, Anna. I'm sorry to hear that. Now, if this is in Georgia, and if you're telling me that your rights have been terminated, yeah, they could still come after you for child support. In fact, they will still come after you for child support. Anna, just make sure in your particular case, if your case is in Georgia, if you're not able to afford that child support, be able to show the judge what what your income is. Be able to show the judge, if you're flying from California to Georgia, that's a lot of money. That is a lot of money. If you're having to come back and forth, if you actually do have visitation, because I want to clarify something. Just because someone has sole custody doesn't mean that the other person does not have visitation. Now, termination of rights is different from someone else having sole custody, okay? So someone could have sole custody and you could still have visitation. So I'm not sure if that's your case, Anna, but if it's a termination of parental rights, that is something totally different, okay? And so here's the thing. I want to be clear, because I've gotten questions about what do I do if I can't afford child support, if I don't have enough money for the child support. I want to be very clear. You need to be paying something. Okay, in the state of Georgia, a lot of the ladies know about this because I see a lot of ladies doing this. They tend to file what's called a child abandonment warrant against you. Okay, and that's where if you go more than 30 days without providing anything for the children, any kind of financial contribution, any kind of necessities, a roof over their head, any kind of clothing, then what I've seen typically is the person who has the children will go and file what's called a child abandonment warrant. And then if you're the non-custodial parent, you're having to go to court and you're having to say to the judge, that's not true. I've never let 30 days go by without providing for my children. So it's very important that you don't allow 30 days, more than 30 days to go by without providing something, okay? Even if there's no child support order in place, because a lot of people, they don't understand that even with a child abandonment warrant, even without having an order of child support, there could still be a child support abandonment warrant filed against you. So keep that in mind, you guys. Keep that in mind. And so a lot of things, a lot of times what I tell my clients to do is make sure, even if there's no order in place, make sure you're providing something, financially to the children, okay? So that you don't have to worry about that warrant. Because for my clients, when we go in and we're able to say, Judge, more than 30 days has not gone by where he or she has not provided any kind of financial support for these children, then the judge is likely to not grant that warrant, okay? All right, so let's be very clear on that. And just because the warrant is dismissed that time or not granted that time does not mean that the person can't come the next 30 days when you decide not to provide any money, and go and get the warrant, okay? They'll do it over and over and over again. So let's be clear on that, okay? But what I was saying about if you cannot afford your child support, you need to be paying something. Because here's the thing. Here's what people get in trouble when it comes to contempt actions. You lost your job, or maybe you're making a lot less than what you were making before. And what they do is they fail to pay anything. You cannot fail to pay anything. A judge is likely to really not send you to jail or hold you in willful contempt, at least if you paid something, if you made a good faith effort to pay child support, pay some kind of support, okay? So if your child support is $800 and you're like, listen, Judge, I've been paying $500, because I can't afford the other part, then a judge is going to say, okay, at least you've been making good faith payments. But listen, I don't want you to misunderstand what I'm saying, because this is not about you actually going in and unilaterally changing your child support. Because if the judge sees that you could have been paying that $800 that you were ordered to pay, yeah, you could end up in willful contempt and you could end up going to jail. Okay. All right. So let's be clear on that. All right. And let's be clear on the fact that even if the judge doesn't hold you in willful contempt, it doesn't mean you don't owe the money. So if you're $10,000 behind in child support, even if the judge doesn't hold you in willful contempt, you're still going to owe $10,000. Maybe the judge will allow you to pay $200 on top of your child support obligation, towards the $10,000, but you still will owe that amount of money, okay? Unless you can show otherwise that you've actually paid that amount. All right, what other questions do we have? I'm looking for more questions. Allie. Okay, Allie. Oh, Allie, you're the one that has sole custody. Okay, but you're saying there's been months at a time where I received nothing. If you're in the state of Georgia and that person lives in the state of Georgia, again, you can file a child abandonment case against them. If you have a child support order, you can actually file a contempt action. Okay. And I'm sorry, Allie, I was confusing you with Anna. So let's go back to what Allie. Let's see. School stuff is expensive too. Daycare, school expenses, they are. So, Allie, you bring up a good point. Let me just say this, because I get a lot of people confused thinking that child support and daycare are the same. They are not the same, okay? A judge can roll the child support, the daycare expenses into the child support payments, but they are not the same at all, okay? Child support is child support, and then you have daycare, okay? So here's one for my fathers, or my non-custodial parents. Listen, I would advise you to make sure daycare is not included in the child support amount when you have an order. Here's why you want to fight for it to be outside of the child support order. And when I say outside of the child support order, you're still going to pay. You're just going to pay like whatever your percentage is, whether it's 50%, you're just going to pay it outside of the actual order. So you'll still pay your child support, but your child support won't be as much as it should have been, because now instead of paying child support and daycare in one, it's child support and you're paying the daycare outside of the worksheet. Okay. And if anybody has ever seen a child support worksheet and how everything is calculated, you know exactly what I mean. Okay. But so going back to Allie, you want to make sure that daycare expenses, you can ask for that. You can ask for that. If you file to establish paternity and you're asking for child support, you can ask for daycare expenses to be paid. After school care, before school care, daycare. That should be paying half of that. Okay. Now in the child support worksheet, there's what's called a pro rata share. But typically the judges will make the non-custodial parent pay 50% of that. Okay. Same thing with out-of-pocket medical expenses. So if little Timmy, has like medical expenses totaling about $1,000, then guess what? In a child support order with the court, the judge normally already puts in the child support order that the other parent is going to pay 50% of that. And you need to make sure that you're sending those bills, those EOBs, explanation of benefits, to the other side if they're ordered to pay that. Sometimes you guys get a little lazy with it and you say, listen, it was only $20. Well, $20 adds up. So you want to at least make sure that you're sending the bill to the person so they would know. Even if you're not going to go after the person for it, you need to make sure you're sending it. If your child support order says that they're supposed to pay 50%, then you still need to be paying, you still need to be sending the bills to them so that, you're asking for the money. Now, I get you may not want to file a contempt action based on $20, based on $100, but over the years, that could add up. Now you're at $5,000 5 years later, and now it's not so small, is it? And then if you go to court, but you never sent over the bills and the person never knew about the bills, what are you wanting them to pay half of? So that's the reason you still need to be sending these bills or the explanation of benefits to the other side when it comes to them actually reimbursing you per the order. And all of this is per the order. Okay, so if you don't have an order in place, you would want to get an order in place where it says they're supposed to do this. So per the order, you send over the bills and they reimburse you. Typically it's 15 days, typically it's 30 days. Some orders actually say that you need to send the bill over within 15 days. Some orders actually say you're supposed to send it over within 30 days, okay? All right, let's see. I'm going through these comments. Allie, I'm not sure if Texas has that same guideline as far as the 30 days, but that's here in Georgia, what we call child abandonment. I'm going to tell you, in Texas, they don't play. They don't play in Texas. They don't play. So I'm sure you guys have something that's like stricter than what we have here in Georgia. Okay. All right. Anna, you said I filed for contempt 2 times. He owed child support since 2013 and also got it dismissed. Oh my God. Also moved my daughter's school without my consent. Oh, wow. You need to be looking at your order. And if your order says that he is supposed to tell you where he's moving, and a lot of parenting plans actually say that, a lot of parenting plans will say that you are supposed to give notice. In Georgia, our judges typically say a 30-day notice. It could be a 60-day notice, but typically in our parenting plans, we say that the other parent needs to give you notice if they're going to be moving. Why do we do that? Because if you're going to visit your children and your children, you don't know where your children are, just in case the person doesn't show up to the exchange location, you have nowhere to send the police. Okay? All right, nowhere to send the police. We need to know where the children are at all times when it comes to living situations, okay? That's just like, if I've had situations where one situation in particular where mom was nowhere to be found for 5 years. Grandma, grandpa, and the son were raising that child. Mom showed up to the door out of nowhere, convinced the grandmother to allow her to take that child to the zoo. 3 years later is when the grandmother saw that child again, okay? So grandmother, even though, let me just say, I want to be clear, grandmother didn't even have any rights at that time. except the guardianship. Okay. But I say that to say, if you have a parenting plan in place and you don't know where the other person lives, that could be a defense to a contempt action if they tried to file a contempt action against you, saying that you refuse to allow parenting time. Okay. Because if I'm going to send my children, I need to know where I'm sending my children to. Now, I'm not talking about the daily activities, if they're going to McDonald's, if they're going to Chuck E. Cheese. I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about I need to know where the other parent lives. Because guess what? If for whatever reason, you know, dad or mom decides not to return little Timmy, then I have nowhere to send the police to retrieve my child. Okay. So that's why it's important for you to actually know the address of the other person and for the other parent to know your address. Okay. And there are exceptions to this. I will tell you an exception: if there's a temporary protective order in place, then a judge is not going to make you give your address if that's the case. Okay. All right. Let's see. What do you do if you send checks? They don't cash it. You call the child support office and ask to start a claim to pay the other side, but they don't respond to the paperwork. Let me just tell you, Kimberly, if you're the one that's paying the child support and you have a child support obligation, one, your order should say how you are supposed to make those payments. Okay. And if it's to child support services, then definitely make it to child support services. But if there's no order if there's an order in place, but the order doesn't say how you make the payments, then if you're sending the checks, that's fine. If they're not cashing the checks, oh, well, but here's the thing. You better be able to prove that you sent money or that you sent like the check to them. Okay. Or they're going to say, I never received the check, or they sent the check she purposely sent the check to the wrong address. Okay. You don't want that to be the case. Okay. So if I'm you and I'm sending checks after that first month that I've sent a check and that person has not cashed the check, first of all, I'm going to keep the money in my account, because one thing is they still have the check. And so if they go and cash it, even if it's 3 months later, the first thing they're going to tell the judge is you gave them a bad check. Okay. So let's keep that in mind. All right. Let's see. I'm just looking for your comments. All right. Anna, you're saying the ex wasn't even in the picture since 2013. I found out he was having another affair. Was this a marriage, or was this just you guys were in a relationship without marriage? Because that's how I'm gonna, that's gonna help me to respond to what you're saying. Okay. All right. Any other questions as it relates to child support or any family law matters? I want to be able to come on here at least once or twice a week and answer your questions. So, you guys make sure you're leaving questions for me. So when I come on, I can already have your questions. I can always be going over everything that you guys are asking me about. And thank you for the people that ask questions, because this is going to help other people because they have the same questions, or similar questions. But even, it helps to really for us to kind of go back and forth and put some things out there. Okay. Yeah, Anna, we do have a number. We're in the office Monday through Friday from 8:30 a.m. to 5 p.m. 404-418-7777. Or you can leave your question in the comments. People will tell you I typically try to do a subsequent video based on the questions. But if you want, our website is terriherronlaw.com, TerriHerron. So I'll put it in the comments. And we have some information there, but I would also encourage you to check out some of our other videos because we do give a lot of tips. We give a lot of information. Okay. All right. So thank you guys so much for being here. And I want you guys to be safe. I want you guys to really, I know this is not the best time, but really be encouraged, because what's going to happen is you got to come out on the other side of the storm. Okay. So I don't need you complaining and things like that while this quarantine is going on, while this coronavirus is going on. Now is the time, whatever you need to do. And I understand that people are not in the best situation. There are people that are out of work. And in the meantime, I understand that. But now is the time to really start planning some things. Like if you were a service person that had to, that the only way your business thrives is through service, then this should show you that you need to figure out another way to do your business. Because listen, it can't be limited to just whatever your local service is. You're going to have to figure out some things that you're going to be able to do just in case something like this happens again. But listen, be encouraged and don't let it get you down. Now get you a journal. Let me just show you. I have a journal. I'm always putting things together, okay? Always having ideas. And I had a friend back in college who told me you need to always have like several streams of income, okay? So let this be a chance for you to come up with some opportunities, whether that's to go back to school, whether that's to do some kind of online business, whatever that case may be. But on the other side, because there is another side, make sure you're prepared, okay? Have a great night.